Hello everyone, welcome to this session on how you can get started with contributing to open source projects as part of Hacktober Fest. So I'm sure you all know what is Hacktober Fest by this point, but just to recap, it's an annual event that occurs throughout the month of October to encourage people to contribute to open source. So why would you participate in Hacktober Fest? Why contribute to open source projects during this period? You can find and contribute to and as part of doing that you'll get to learn about a large number of new technologies and develop your skills, potentially get the chance to participate in GSOC. So what do I mean by this? So if you contribute to projects as part of Hacktober Fest, you'll become familiar with the process of contributing to open source projects, and you can stick around with the projects that you've contributed to during Hacktober Fest after the month ends, and those some of those organizations might end up participating in GSOC or any other such programs. And since you've already had experience contributing to these projects, you'll have a better chance at being selected. Also, as part of Hacktober Fest, the participants get swags. So up until last year, all the participants used to get T-shirts, but now they've switched to digital swags, which are still pretty cool to show off on your social profiles. So how do we start with making contributions? Your first step should be to register on hacktoberfest.com to make your contributions count towards getting those rewards. And the condition that is required to complete Hacktoberfest successfully is to have 4 pull requests in total, that may be across that all of them which may be in one project, or each one of them may be in a different project, that are merged to the project and have been accepted by the maintainers. So how do we find projects to contribute to? The simplest way to do this is to look for the topic Hacktoberfest on GitHub. So in the GitHub search bar, you can type in Hacktoberfest, and GitHub has something known as topics, where you can look for projects that correspond to a particular topic. And you can look for the topic Hacktoberfest to see the repositories that are participating in Hacktoberfest, and contributions towards which will count towards your 4 pull request requirement. So this is what the Hacktoberfest topic looks like on GitHub. You can go to the link shown in the slide and look for anything that interests you. Also, if you want to know whether a particular repository is participating in Hacktoberfest or not, you can also look for the badge on the right underneath the about for the project. What are some other ways to find projects? So on GitHub, there is the search. There is an advanced search on GitHub where you can search repositories by the technologies, by the languages, like how active the repository is, how many stars it has. So based on some interest that you have, or some things that you're looking in a project that you want to contribute to, you can use the advanced search on GitHub to find projects. So besides that, you can also search on Google for projects to contribute to during Hacktoberfest, or projects maybe you're interested in React, so like the React projects that are participating in Hacktoberfest, and you'll find plenty of blogs related to which projects you can potentially contribute to, and using those blogs you can find many other projects. So how to contribute? So now that you find a project, how do you actually go ahead and make your first contribution? So on GitHub, you can filter issues with the label Good First Issue or Hacktoberfest. So I'll show you an example of that. So on this repository, you can see that we have this on repositories. If you go to the issues tab, you have the ability to filter through different number of labels. So for issues, you can go underneath the labels filter, and you can search for good first issue. You can search for good first issue. You search for underneath its about. learn about Git contribution flow. So what is Git contribution flow? There's a specific flow that is suggested by GitHub when you're contributing to open source projects. So there's plenty of tutorials on it on YouTube, and you can find quite a lot of blogs about what actually is Git contribution flow. So Git contribution flow involves the steps where you make a copy of the repository that you want to contribute to locally, how you make changes to that repository using commits, and how you can, the changes that you've made in your local repository, how do you actually make them reflect on the main repository. So all of, to understand the process behind how to actually do this, you have to learn about Git contribution flow. That is how you can actually make commits and the pull requests. Another very important thing to note when contributing to open source projects is that you should always adhere to the guidelines that a project has. So open source projects consist of thousands of participants that are with, so usually when you're working for a company, there is a set hierarchy with people in charge. But in open source projects, the projects are managed and maintained by communities. So to make sure that the projects have adhere to a specific, have a certain quality, and make sure that they don't don't end up becoming don't end up becoming bad. So they have set community guidelines and how you, con- guidelines for contributing. So your first, when you decide to make your first contribution to a project, you should always make sure to thoroughly go through the community and contributing guidelines that they have. And oftentimes, new contributors to open source projects, the mistake that they make is they pester many of the existing contributors as and the maintainers for help. And if you're looking to grow further in open source, you have to be learned. You have to learn to be self-reliant. That is, you should have the tenacity to figure out why things aren't going the way you think they should be by yourself, without asking many people for questions. And this is a way in which you can this is a way through which you can get noticed in the community. So if you do a lot of good work uh, without without asking others for help, and your work has almost never needs to be revised or looked into by other contributors, which basically saves everyone's time, and you're making a good impact on the project. So through this you can get noticed in the community. So always try to be self-sufficient when contributing to open source projects. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Are there any questions in chat? It can be about open source in general, not specifically related to Hacktober Fest as well. Okay, so how I got involved through my first open source project was through Hacktober Fest only. So during Hacktober Fest, there is an increased number of issues in open source projects that can be solved by first time contributors. So this is a good opportunity for most people to get involved in open source. So my first project, I was just looking for any repository to contribute to, and it coincidentally happened to be in October. So it was quite easy for me to solve my first issues. And how I found the project that I contributed to was I was interested in um, applying to a program known as the Linux Foundation Mentorship. So I was going through the website and I found a project that I was interested in. So I just checked out the GitHub repository, and yeah, just made my first contribution like that. Okay, resources and communities. Okay, so I should have added there's resources and okay, so besides other than, so most people know about GSOC, but other than GSOC there is quite a lot of programs that also have stipends that are also extremely reputed. So some of them include, I suggest that the people on the stream check out the Linux Foundation and the projects underneath the Linux Foundation. So the Linux Foundation is a large umbrella open source organization that is an umbrella organization for projects in open source across a wide range of domains, be it Web3, be it the Linux kernel, be it cloud. So Linux Foundation is a good thing to check out. And other than that, I mostly go through blogs. So there are blogs that are catered toward open source projects in specific niches. So if there's any niche that interests you, I suggest that you Google it, and there's most likely a blog on that niche, and through that you can find projects and programs.
I think that's all from our side. I think we can wrap up this session. Is there any few last words that you would love to tell people?
I hope that you guys had learned something to this session, and I hope that you're inspired to actually go ahead and make your first contribution. It isn't that hard, guys, especially during the month of Hacktoberfest. As I already mentioned, there's a very large number of issues that are catered towards that are meant to be solved by first-time contributors. So I suggest that you go ahead and grab them. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
So, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot, Rafi. I think we can wrap up this session.